How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 3 of the Fangirl Podcast, brought to you by Fangirl the Magazine. Go check us out at fangirlthemag.com. You're in for a good one this week as we talk about No Man's Sky, We Happy Few, OMG Check, please, the Suicide Squad movie, DC's television series, and stick around afterwards for a special interview with our writer Natalie to hear about a fairly spoiler-free discussion of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Thanks for watching, everyone. Go around and introduce ourselves. I'm George. I'm a gaming editor at Fangirl.
I'm Sean Morrison, co-founder and editor at Fangirl.
I'm Max Havey. Do you want to go?
No, you can go. You're fine.
Okay. I'm Max Havey. I'm one of the entertainment editors at Fangirl.
I'm Courtney Fields. I'm a writer for Fangirl.
Awesome. All right. Let's just kick it off with video games because I'm biased and want to go first. Sean, what did you want to talk about? No Man's Sky. It's coming out this week, right?
Yeah, it's
the 9th, I guess, so that's a little over a week.
It's a long time coming for that one, but it's going to be, I think this is probably one of the bigger deals of the summer, despite it being an IP. And just everybody, I think, is kind of clamoring to see what exactly we get out of it. I mean, procedural generation is something that over the past couple of years, people have gotten a firmer and firmer grasp on what exactly that means. But just wrapping your head around the idea that there's no player in the world that would be able to ever see more than even a quarter of the game's content, even if they played it nonstop for the rest of their lives. That's amazing to think about. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, the thing is, how much of that content will kind of be repeated or super similar? If you only see a quarter, but everything's looks kind of the same. You've kind of seen everything at the same time, if that makes sense. So hopefully they do a good job with the variation there.
Mm-hmm. You have to wonder just how much, when they're talking about procedural generation, I mean, you could procedurally generate an animal, making it bigger, smaller, fatter, skinnier, or you can procedurally generate every single piece of the animal. Just like with the worlds, they can have like mountains that can be bigger or taller, or they could have different landscapes, like down to like what color the grass is going to be. So you're either going to see a bunch of different variations of the same elephant, or you're going to see an elephant with like giraffe legs and things like that on different planets. It's just, again, because we don't know what's at the core of like the actual systems and the processing, we have no idea what the worlds are going to be like, which is exciting, but also, because this game's taken so long to come along, terrifying. Because what if we buy this and it's just, the same old after you go through 50 worlds? It's like, oh, well, that one has a red mountaintop. Dope.
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. I'm excited, but a little bit scared at the same time of what it could be. Could be a disappointment.
Hasn't that been like the general worry online for the past like month, even after the game got pushed back, that there wasn't going to be enough content to go around, especially after they found out how much the size of the game itself? Because it wasn't like, is it 52 gigs? Is that how much it was?
6 gigs.
6 gigs. Yeah, wildly overshot that, but it's incredibly small for a game that is that big.
Yeah.
For a game that's so existentially terrifying.
Their argument for that is that because it is procedurally generated, pretty much not that much has to be actually within the game itself. It's just having the processors go through and randomly create these worlds. But at the same time, you do wonder, with communities that are as big as they are, like, I mean, you've got Reddit and users worldwide, how long is it going to take for people to start noticing trends? I mean, people dig into this stuff for hours and hours on end. There was, I forget what the name of the guy was, but somebody was able to get a full version of the game that was taken early, like factory issued, early release, and he's the only person.
A ton of money for it too.
$1,300 for it. I wish I had $1,300 to spend on anything, let alone just be like, oh yeah, a game I want that's out in a few days. So he does that. He posts a few videos, and people went crazy about it. People were mad at him for letting the content out early. People were like, oh my god, that's such a cool little world thing, and like. But at the same time, you already know there's so much fervor being built up for this, and there are also so many people that are just expecting this to be a flop, while a lot of people do remain, sort of hopeful. I have no idea what to. For the first time, like, in the past couple of years, I have no idea what to expect from the game. Like on even the basic things such as, moving around and going from planet to planet and exploring worlds. We've heard almost nothing about how the game's going to operate.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up that guy you talked about because the top post on r/games on Reddit right now is about him. Apparently, he discovered something that allows players to get to the center of the galaxy within 10 to 12 hours, which the developers were saying that'd take like hundreds of hours to do for a player. So it's a little worrisome right there, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
But wasn't a lot of the early hope for this game that it was going to eventually pair with VR when that eventually comes down the pike later this year or early into next year?
Yeah, I
Like,
think this was one of those PlayStation VR games, I think, that they
yeah.
used.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, because it was a game that was talked about so much in tandem with PSVR for so long. Do you think it's going to make it out to that point where people are really going to have that dream fulfilled of playing this game in VR, or do you think it's going to last that long?
It's a good question. When does PSVR come out? End of the
March.
year, right?
I
Oh,
think it's
March? Okay.
I think it's March.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll still be some people playing it, even if it is a disappointment, by that time.
It just
They
seems
could even
like,
bring more players in, depending on how many people get PSVR. With, hey,
mhm.
the PSVR is out now. How does this work with No Man's Sky? Revitalize the player base.
Yeah, yeah. I think it could either be like a tremendous smash hit or people are just going to absolutely hate it, and that'll kind of determine where the future is from there. It's either way, it's still going to be one of those games that people either really enjoy or absolutely despise because it doesn't seem like there's much action going on. It doesn't seem like there's really a hardcore end game or anything like that. Exploratory, kind of like a walking simulator, but with planet walking.
Yeah, plenty of games like that have done well before.
I mean,
That's
The
true.
Witness got a 10 on IGN earlier this year, and it's one of the few to do that. And it's just walking around beautiful environments and solving line puzzles.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. We'll have to see on that one.
So yeah, that comes out on the 9th. I look forward to playing it. It's coming out on just PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, that's right. All
Yep.
right. Um, so yeah, let's talk about the other game then, I guess. We Happy Few. None of you have played that at all, right?
No,
Absolutely not.
No, I
Either
have
have
not.
no. Did you guys see the E3 trailer for this?
Yes.
I think I saw footage of it. I don't think I saw the actual trailer, but it looked great.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that trailer and footage looked absolutely great. The game is nothing like what you'll expect, by the way, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Mhm.
Because I was kind of expecting a Bioshock-esque story-driven adventure, and it's more of a survival game like DayZ or H1Z1.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're kind of constantly keeping a check on your health meter, your food and water meter, and your sleep meter, which all drain super quickly. Right now it's in early access, so it's an early alpha game for $30 on Steam and Xbox One. Um, I've played about 12 hours of it, I think, so far. Seen quite a few bugs, especially in the quests, which apparently they haven't fleshed out too much. The story, which is kind of what most of us are excited for because that trailer looked awesome,
Mhm.
isn't really fleshed out too much, and they say they're not going to flesh it out anymore until the game actually comes out, which I can't see happening for at least 6 months, probably a lot longer. But yeah, so the way the game kind of plays is it's sets you. The game is actually also procedurally generated, um, but it sets you on a bunch of islands, kind of a city that's connected by islands, and each island's really different. You usually start on like this torn down, horrible place with depressed people all around, starving people, moldy food, um, and then the objective is to get from there to another island, which you have to do a bunch of quests for. The quests themselves are actually pretty cool when they're not bugging out on you. So that's nice. But yeah, then another island I got to was this utopia, I guess, where you have to take joy, which is that drug you saw in the trailer, which makes you just happy and world is perfect. Literally, they put like a double rainbow in the sky when you're on joy. So it's pretty awesome. That lasts like 2 minutes, and you need it to get through some security systems and stuff. There's security systems where if you go through without joy, they'll start beating your ass. Um, so yeah, Keeping an eye on the food and water and sleep, though, is super annoying. They say they're going to tweak those about in the upcoming weeks, so I hope they decrease the rate that those fall at. But yeah, I
Seems like
wish
they're
we
not
knew
really
more
sure
about the
what the
story.
game. Yeah, it seems like they don't really know what they want the game to be at this point. If you're going with something that's survival based on top of the, I mean, I think the Bioshock thing, like you said, that was what we were all aiming for, like a new kind of Bioshock where you're remarkably weak and hiding from clown faced cops.
Exactly. Yeah, I was looking forward to the story-driven adventure. I didn't realize until I started reading up about it a few days before the early access release that it's a survival game. I had no idea about that at all. I'm kind of disappointed to hear it, but
Mhm.
it's been decently fun so far. I've played it for 12 hours, so it can't be that bad, right?
I've made you play worse games for longer.
But yeah, I would say wait for the full release for this one. See how it comes out then. See how it is. Because a lot of the, like I said, what we were talking about with procedural generation, I see a lot of things repeated here. Like house layouts. I walk into a house and recognize like, oh, this house looks exactly like 10 others that I've seen on this other island. So I know exactly where like the big chest in this house is to
Mhm.
grab items from. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it's pretty fun though. But definitely wait for release. It's not that fun.
Well, how about we switch it over to comics then? We got a couple of things coming up this week, and especially, Suicide Squad is a big one, not just for movies, but also for on the comic side. Let's start with something a little bit more off kilter, though. Courtney, you had a comic you wanted to talk with us about.
Yes. Recently, someone that I work with told me about this comic that's called OMG Check, Please, and it's gonna sound really strange when I describe it to y'all, but it's about this guy who's a freshman in college, or when it starts out, and he used to be a figure skater, and then he got a hockey scholarship, but he's also a vlogger, and he also is like an amateur like baker, like a pastry chef. So it's very random when you first start off, but it's actually a really cool thing because it's told completely through his vlog. So in the comic, he's breaking the fourth wall and he's constantly talking to you. And the artist and author of it, she she basically created him as his own person. So he tweets, he's on Tumblr, he's on Instagram, he has all this social media, and he's like constantly interacting with the fandom because it completely exploded on Tumblr. And it even it got a Kickstarter, and it has like $15,000 that got added to the Kickstarter overnight. So it's just blown up. Right now, there's 3 seasons, or it's in the middle of its third season, and it's each season is season one's freshman year, then season two sophomore year, and season three is junior year. So it's kind of about him being like an outcast with the hockey team, but also like how he interacts with people who are different than him, and it's really funny. Every hockey player has like its characters, and you don't really have to be into hockey to like it, because I didn't know anything about hockey going in. So it's more about like the people and the people that you see on hockey teams and stuff like that.
You said there's something coming up on the horizon for that, right? Do you have any more details on what's going on with the fandom?
Bas- Basically, there's nothing ever that's really scheduled when it's coming out. You just kind of have to watch the author and the artist, all their social media, and watch Eric Biddles, or Biddy as like his hockey nickname is. You have to watch their social media and see. But there's supposed to be something coming out at the beginning of the school year time. But sometimes it will come out, sometimes it won't. You just have to hover on the social media and see and wait. But there's about 40 comics already up on Tumblr right now.
Gotcha. And that's a really interesting concept. You don't really hear much about I mean, that's a lot of different worlds intersecting. You've got sports, LGBTQ issues, social media, all those things kind of combining into one sort of, I'm guessing not tidy, but one big package.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mess, but it's a mess that works.
Nice. Yeah, well, you definitely have to check that one out. Where can we find that again?
If you go to, you can just type in OMG Check Please to Google, or you can go to omgcheckplease.tumblr.com.
Got it.
Nice.
And now, Max, you ready
Yes.
to talk about the big one for this next week?
Oh, yes. Well, so Suicide Squad is dropping on Friday. Well, Thursday, because that's when movies actually release. But Suicide Squad is actually happening after months and months and months of waiting. We'll finally find out if DC can actually, make a solid superhero film. I have my reservations, but this does look a lot better to me than Dawn of Justice. Than Dawn of Justice looked to me a few months ago. The fact that this film is only 100, or it's 100 minutes, I think. It's relatively short in a world where every superhero film is bombastic. It's like an hour 40. Let me check that just to make sure I'm not just lying to you right now.
Because
It's,
that sounds remarkably
2 hours
short.
10 minutes according to Google.
Oh, 2 hours 10 minutes. Maybe it was 140 minutes then. That would make more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, that's shorter than like the bombastic Dawn of Justice or Watchmen, or basically what DC has patterned themselves after for months and years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested for sure in whatever this is going to be. I like a lot of the people that are in this. It's great to see Margot Robbie doing something, as well as Will Smith coming out of his weird retirement phase. After Earth and Focus didn't quite do great, this will be interesting to say the least.
Mm-hmm. I think this film kind of rides on how well Margot Robbie owns just being the centerpiece for the entire thing. I mean, really, it is about the entire group, but at the same time, even within the comics, is seen as a C-list group. And
that's the point. They're expendable. That's why they're the Suicide Squad. I don't expect to see any of these, like half of these characters by the end of the film, just because that's the nature of that super group. I think so many people are putting all their hopes on Jared Leto's Joker, which I think is not a smart thing to do going into this movie, because it's not a Joker movie. It's not a Harley Quinn movie. It's an ensemble piece. And I'm cool with an ensemble piece. That's worked for a lot of superhero films in the past, especially Guardians of the Galaxy, the Avengers. It's a little worrisome they went back into the film to punch it up with more jokes and more humor. Following Deadpool, and the PG-13 rating, I know, disheartened a lot of hardcore Suicide Squad fans, the few that there are. I don't know. It'll be an interesting watch no matter what. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but I'm going to be really excited to read whoever winds up reviewing that for us this week.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, DC is really blowing this out too. They've got 4 Suicide Squad offshoots that they announced in this past week for things that are coming out.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's Suicide Squad #1 Rebirth. There's Suicide Squad #1, which is a one-off. These are comics.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you meant films. And I'm like, we don't need more offshoots of superhero films. There are already too many that aren't going to get made at this point. Just didn't understand where you were going with that.
That could have been bad.
Yeah.
They've got Harley Quinn Rebirth coming out, and then they've got another one with Diablo and Will Smith's character also coming out as a one-shoot. So, Courtney, you're reviewing one of those, I know, and reading that later tonight. But I just thought it was interesting that, like, they're really, at this time, going all in on trying to make a fandom that, is really on, like, the fringes of DC Comics, period, let alone, in the eyes of mainstream pop culture, and turning it into something that can be a commercial entity. Mm-hmm. Now, again, you still have to have those centerpiece figures that can really pull that off. I think the character in the fandom that benefits the most out of all this is Harley Quinn. I wouldn't be surprised to see her character, at least, or Margot Robbie even, getting a lot more legs out of that particular character after this. But I think the tone of the movie seems right now. It didn't before, but we'll see how it goes. What about you two? What are your thoughts on this going into August 5th?
I honestly haven't heard a lot about it. I didn't even know Will Smith was in it, so
that's why he's the gaming guy.
You said that. I'm like, wait, what?
That's why
he didn't try to get his son in there too.
Well, don't be surprised. We haven't seen the full cast list yet.
I think I agree with Max. I'm a little worried about the Joker. But I think that besides that, it's gonna like I really like at least from what I've seen in all the trailers and everything, I really like the tone, and I like the soundtrack that they've been releasing slowly is just like all stars. They have 21 Pilots. Imagine Dragons came out of whatever hole they've been hiding in and started doing some work. And it's a lot better than what they did for Transformers. But it's I think that if they're trying to keep it like they're trying to get the whole movie to be good instead of just like banking in on some like great actor or something like that.
I mean, I think it's interesting though. They're also really going for that Justice League synergy by throwing Ezra Miller into the mix to some extent in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, I mean, it just falls back in the play of the whole theme of DC trying to copy what Marvel's been doing, with their film series, with their comic kind of revamping over the past couple of years. It's DC keeps like trying to nip at the heels, but it's not that they just don't pull it off as well.
I mean,
I've
been. Oh, go ahead.
I can't picture this being as big of a success as, I mean, kind of comparable, but not really. But Guardians of the Galaxy, I would be shocked if this is a better film than that.
Well, because no one had any expectations whatsoever going into Guardians of the Galaxy, and the hype behind this film is reaching a critical mass. It's kind of make or break for DC at this point. Like, if this doesn't do well, I imagine there are going to be some long board meetings about where they're going to take this franchise and what they're going to be doing with their superheroes over the next 5 years. Because my bet is they will put that Justice League film in the fast lane and probably aren't going to do Flash. That's my guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would make sense.
I think one thing that DC has, because they're like you said, they're trying to follow Marvel, because Marvel started getting all their series on like a Netflix original series, and then they had like the Agents of Shield and everything, and then DC started gave permission to CW to like run with that, and now CW just got Supergirl from CBS, and they're starting to kind of like create crossovers and create their own universe in that. So, and those are quality shows, especially The Flash. It's been like it's a huge hit, and I think it's going to be interesting to see like if that universe expands into films instead of DC, the films DC being separate from the actual like on television DC.
I think that'd be the smart way for them to go, because I'm not a huge comics guy or superhero guy at all, and I loved the show The Flash. See a movie about that would be great.
Yeah, and I know that they're when they were like thinking about casting The Flash, they're not even considering Grant Gustin, and a lot of people were really upset with that because he's been like cemented as the Flash in their minds.
I mean, they'd chosen Ezra Miller like I think like not long after the Flash series started.
Yeah,
because he had been cast as the Flash because the production cycle for Dawn of Justice went on for 2.5 years. But they cast him like months and months out, and it was while the Flash series was like just getting legs. So that's a lot of the reason why.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting to see, though, how people latch on to that one person as the canonical face of a superhero within just a half season of watching them play that character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Supergirl is bringing on a different Superman for their series as well. Tyler Hoechlin, who was on Teen Wolf, is going to be playing Clark Kent as Superman on the Supergirl series this year. That was a lot of the stuff that was coming out of TCAs this week was news that they were going to have Superman on there.
Yes, and they just released all the costumes on Instagram for the new characters coming into the CW universe with all of that. So they just released Kid Flash's costume and the like new photo ops with Supergirl and Superman next to each other.
How are they looking?
Kid Flash is a little strange. They are mixing and matching with different like costumes of the past, and it looks like it's good. Like usually when a superhero gets a costume in the CW world, it starts off kind of rough, and then as the season goes on, they adjust it to make it better for like all the different things that hero does. But Tyler Hoechlin still looks a little out of place in the whole photo shoot. I feel like but that's just like what you're saying. Like, we get a vision of like what we think Superman is supposed to look like, and if the person doesn't match up exactly with that, it feels a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, arguably, people probably felt that way after going from Christopher Reeve to Dean Cain on The Adventures of Lois and Clark. That's become a running problem with superheroes and television and film and just multiple media, because you have your Jokers with Mark Hamill as the Joker and being the Joker to so many people, but Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson and Cesar Romero. It just depends on what generation you're from.
Right, exactly.
It's not always even a generational thing with Quicksilver from X-Men. He's also in Avengers, right? But they needed to use a different character.
Yeah, well, it was
or a different, actor.
It was a rights issue because the Marvel Cinematic Universe can't have any mention whatsoever of mutants, which is why they were trying to do an Inhumans thing for the longest time, which got nixed a couple months ago. But yeah, that's why they had to kill Quicksilver off in Ultron, even though, well, I quite liked Evan Peters' Flash in Days of Future Past. Never got around to Apocalypse, but I heard he was still fun in that.
Yeah, I've never seen Apocalypse either, but I loved him in Days of Future Past. And I've yet to see Age of Ultron. Spoiler alert, come on. I know, I'm like...
It's a movie I shouldn't say this, but you probably don't need to see that movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's really not. If you are missing one of them, that is probably one of the ones it's okay to miss.
Ant-Man is more that's more worth it than watching Age of Ultron.
Paul Rudd.
And that's no shade to Ant-Man. Ant-Man's fantastic for what it is. It's like a middle-brow superhero movie. It is really fun. Age of Ultron is just bloated. It's not no good.
There's just so much going on.
Too much going on. Yeah. So, Natalie, to start off, you have a bit of an interesting experience trying to get the book. Can you tell us a bit about what happened?
I'm upset. I'm upset about it. I pre-ordered the book in June, and I realized that that's like getting close to the line. I get that, but you know, when you make $15 an hour, you gotta be careful. And then I realized that I was hooked up to my mom's Amazon Prime account, and I, for literally anything, could just press buy this and it'll automatically buy. Like, you don't even have to go to the billing page. So I was like, oh, pre-order. And then on Sunday, I was like, ooh, I can't wait to read this and like cry and celebrate Harry Potter's 36th birthday and be a weirdo about it. And then I was like, gee, I wonder when it'll get here. And I think I kind of just assumed that it would come on Sunday because Amazon does immediate day, deliveries. Like, they do immediate deliveries. So why wouldn't they do, special things for that, too? And I wasn't really thinking about it. And then I went online, and it said delivery on Wednesday, which is completely unacceptable. Out of line. Awful. Ridiculous. And then I screamed at everyone in range, and then I tweeted at them really angrily. I'll read you. Here, let me pull up what they said to me, those bastards. Let me find it on my slow internet. Yeah, me and Christine, we both did the same thing, and we were really angry about it. So they said, sorry for the frustration. Due to the release day being Sunday, we weren't able to send out books until after the 31st. Signed, VS. So fuck VS, whoever that is. Which, I get, but why wouldn't they send it out on Saturday or something? Why couldn't they do that?
Yeah, because they definitely had it before then.
That's stupid rules. And so I went to Target at 9:30 on Sunday night, and it closes at 10, and I caught every red light, and I screamed the entire way there, and then I power walked, and they had a whole bookcase full of them with free posters, and I bought it, and I read it in 2 hours, and it was amazing. And then I woke up the next day. Okay, let's talk about this too. Let's talk about Amazon courtesy. So I didn't go to work yesterday because my brother's home from summer camp, so I had to watch him because my mom and I work at the same place, and they wanted my mom to come in because she's more useful than I am, apparently. And somebody rings our doorbell, and I assume it's the mailman because my brother loves the mailman, and he rings the doorbell because he knows my brother loves him. And I look out the window, and I see this white van, and it's not like one of those sketchy free candy vans, but it's like kind of close to that. And then all of a sudden I hear the screen door open, and I hear the normal door's handle like jiggling, like someone's trying to open my door. And I'm like, whoa, what? So I ran out of the room, and my brother's coming out like, ooh, mailman. And I'm like, get in your room. And I see the dude walk through our backyard, and I hear him go on the deck, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get murdered. This is it. Because there's this rumor going around that people are dressing up as ComEd people and like breaking into houses. And I'm like, I'm done for. I'm dying. And then I go out later and I see that my book, which came on Monday, not Wednesday, my book was there, is on my deck. And I'm like, okay, Amazon, I don't know what you trained your workers to do, but why is he coming into my house? Why is he trying? Like, I don't need the book hand delivered to my lap. I just need the book. I'm done. Who does that? That's not right. You can't just jail somebody's door because you see me on the couch. That's weird.
Yeah, that sounds about right for Amazon.
I'm not into it. So I read the book, and then I got another book, and now I have 2 books and a poster, and I hate Amazon and everything they stand for.
But you really like the book.
I love the book so much I cried 4 times. Have you read it? Did you read it?
I haven't finished it yet, no.
Okay, no spoilers. I don't know how to say it without ruining it for you, but I think that it was weird because it's a script dialogue, and so you can kind of envision it in your head, but at the same time you're like, it's weird because it's only dialogue and there's not a lot of description. So things happen, and you don't get the explanation for why they happen immediately. Like, there's some things you get later. Like, so a character will do this thing, and you'll be like, that's weird. Like, I wonder if this is this. And then, like, 3 scenes later, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Because you forget you're supposed to be watching it. Harry is interesting. Like, Harry is the same, but there's some parts where he's different. And it weirds me out. But I like it. Hermione is great. Ron is great. I really, really like Scorpius Malfoy, which is a fun surprise for me because I am a Slytherin and I need all the help I can get in defending my name. I'm wearing my Slytherin sweater right now. I got it from Bob. So how far are you?
I just finished up part 1.
What does that end with?
Oh, God. I wish I had the book. My girlfriend's got the book in the other. So we decided to get 1 copy of the book, right? And that was a good idea because it was like, much cheaper, but bad idea because we've been trading back and forth with who's like actually reading the book.
We're making mistakes left and right.
There are a lot of mistakes, namely relying on other people when it comes to fandom stuff is just like a bad idea, pretty much. But I know you mentioned that Harry's like different at some times. What makes him different?
Well, now that he's there's just some scenes, and I think, I don't want to spoil it for you, but these things happen where he's in a different place than he should be. Like, it's not the storyline that it's supposed to be. And he just, like, his character as a father is, like, you don't expect it, but at the same time it makes sense because he doesn't have proper role models. Like, he had Arthur Weasley, and he had Remus Lupin, and he had Sirius for, like, 2 years, but Remus was, he was a werewolf. He was very defensive, very quick to get argumentative, and then he had Sirius, who was in hiding, and he had Arthur, who, is just kind of kooky, He's like Ron, and he's great, and he's loving, but discipline-wise, he had, 6 kids, They lived a very simple life, and Harry does not. So, he doesn't have he has good examples for raising him. Like, he had a lot of love and a lot of support, but he doesn't have necessarily the best examples for how to deal with what they had to deal with him. Because I think Albus Severus is just like him. And in the book, at some point, they say that they don't think they're alike. And I think Albus Severus reminds me exactly of Harry in Order of the Phoenix. I think he's emotional and he's complex and he's dealing with like not like hormonal issues, but what is very similar, because obviously they're not hormones, it's because the world is falling apart, but you know, it's weird to see Harry in that position instead of Harry being the one being like coddled and admired and things like that.
Would you say that makes Harry more complex or just like a different character entirely?
I think that makes him more complex because it's like a whole nother, not battle for him, but it's a whole nother issue. It's just like adding one more layer to like the things he's had to face. I don't know. I still think he's great and I still love him, but I'm not surprised. Like, I think what happens is like, part of me was surprised. I'm like, ooh, at first I was like, I can't believe you would say things like that. But at the same time, when you realize like he definitely doesn't have great impulse control. He's very open about what he feels, things like that. And it makes sense. I think they did a good job of keeping the characters genuine and following kind of a path that they should be on while creating like character development for them. If that makes sense.
Right. What are fans of the series going to be surprised by when they read this if they haven't picked it up yet?
I don't think they're going to expect a lot of the returning characters. I think they're going to expect to see it be based on this one child and what this child has to face. And I think they do a very good job of incorporating the old books while staying focused on this plot line, which is nice. I mean, like I said, I cried 4 times, and a lot of that was because I didn't expect to be able to read about characters that I've missed again. And I still think there's a lot that they left out, but it was nice to see, like, have those interactions again, I guess. I think they'll be surprised. I think the ending, and not just, like, the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, the solution to the problem, but after that, there's this one major scene at the end of the book. Not the very last scene, but kind of, like, after the plot resolution, just kind of this moment. And it's really heartbreaking. And I did not expect it. It's almost cruel, but I think it's gonna take some fans by surprise. Maybe not surprise, but I think it's gonna kind of shatter them a little bit. Yeah, I would say I don't think a lot of people think it sounds like fan fiction, and I totally get that. So I think some of them maybe won't be surprised by the themes or the ideas or like the friendships that start or things like that. I think it's a lot of people have probably already thought of it. I don't read fan fiction, so I don't really know. I read a lot of tweets and they were using all these words that I didn't understand, and I thought I knew stuff, but then they like had all these tags, and I was like, oh. So I think they'll be surprised, but depending on what level fan they are, maybe they won't.
It's a really quick read, too. You said it took you 2 hours that night?
Yeah, I wish it would have been longer. And I talked to my best friend about this for like 3 hours on the phone today, because we read all the books together. We get that it's a play, but I don't think any fan would have complained for more content. And to us, it almost would have made sense to write the 500, 700-page book and then take the play out of it. But we're greedy. We just want more. Because there's just like a few things that like could have done with more description. Like I said in my article, so you have this issue and it seems like they kind of lead up to it. They're like, oh, there might be a problem. And then all of a sudden they're like, there's a problem. And then all of a sudden it's resolved and you're like, but wait, like from the war till now, like how did this problem like it had to develop somehow, and it's like I would have liked a backstory, and I wonder if she'll put it on Pottermore or not, but she likes to tweet, so here's hoping.
Yeah, gonna definitely be clamoring for more after this.
I just want a Patronus test, that's all I just need to know.
So what was it like, you mentioned revisiting all those old characters, just getting the book itself. Like I saw your Snapchat story, and it was one of the most hilarious things I'd seen about it. But and there were a lot of F-bombs, It was great. But What's it like just having that in your hands and knowing you're going to go on that journey you went on so many years ago?
It was like a tingly feeling. Like I was excited, but I was sad because I knew that I would finish it quickly and then it would be over again. And I knew it would be this like fleeting thing. And I know it'll be nice when Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them comes out, because it'll kind of be like that again, but it'll be different because we won't have the characters. We'll just have the world, and I don't know if it'll feel the same. Maybe they'll have that opening Warner Brothers like thing, and then I'll feel like a little comforted. But it was just like I'm an emotional person. I feel like for me, and probably for a lot of other fans, like growing up with Harry Potter was not just growing up with Harry Potter. It's like, to me, it's always been like a very emotionally supportive type thing where like I felt like I was Hermione kind of growing up. Like I was a teacher's pet, and I mean I had friends and stuff, but I definitely like, she made it okay to be someone like that, and she made it okay to like books, and she made it okay to be nerdy and to like these things. And so like to have that again is just really exciting and really comforting. And like that, Harry Potter is my go-to. Like when I'm having a bad day, I put on Harry Potter, or when I'm having a really good day, I put on Harry Potter. I always put on Harry Potter. Harry Potter's like, if I could pick my number one favorite thing, like of all the things that I love in the entire world, I would pick Harry Potter. So like to have that again was just like we didn't think it would happen. I mean, since the last book, they're like, well, she's going to make an encyclopedia, or she's going to make an 8th book, or she's going to make like the Marauder story, which I would die if she made, but she's not going to. Because she said she's done, which is the meanest thing she could have ever said. But I don't know, it's a good feeling. But now they can't, I just feel like they can't make this into a movie.
Yeah, they might be able to. I mean, you figure as a play, they might be able to adapt it into maybe a musical, maybe. But that would be amazing. I'm just saying. Like
Star Kids? Have you ever watched the Harry Potter musical?
Yes.
That's a great, that should be made into a movie. No, I just don't want to spoil anything. There's some scenes that I don't think they could make, like they could not make the movie. Like it just wouldn't be right. And you'll understand when you read the book. You'll understand, and then you're going to text me, because Christine did the same thing to me. She goes, Natalie, when you get to this scene, you're going to text me because you're going to be sobbing. And you're going to be upset, and you're going to, like, die. And immediately when I got to that scene, I was like, I can't read this book anymore. So... And it wasn't like I was, like, it wasn't upset. It was just, like, I didn't expect it. And, oh my God. And I just feel like putting that into a movie, like, I couldn't watch it. Like, my heart would break. It's really not that sad of a book, but I'm just emotional, attached. There is some really sad parts, and you revisit there's a lot of old quotes, which I really liked. There's a lot of, and sometimes they acknowledge it, like, oh, did I just quote this person? I'm like, yeah, you did. You did. But, like, you've read the first part, so when they're in platform 9 3/4, and he's like, best if you take it at a bit of a run, is, like, exactly what Molly Weasley said to him, and it was the first page, and I, like, threw the book, and I was like, this is gonna be awful. I hate this. And I was already crying. It was the first page.
Well, hopefully we'll get some more experiences like that in the future. Not sure where they're going to come from, but, you know, just the fandom itself, there's so many ways it can go, and there's so many people that are absolutely dedicated to this. You know, Rowling says that she's not going to do anything else with it, but...
She's a liar. What I would wonder at this point, so they're making Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them into 3 movies, right? It's 3. Well, when that book came out, it came out with Quidditch Through the Ages. So I would wonder if they would ever consider making that into something. I don't know if they could make a movie out of it. They would have to find, like, some kind of, like, I don't know if they would do a movie about, like, another Quidditch World Cup or what, but... I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wouldn't be opposed to anything. She could do literally anything. I know some people, they complain about her tweets, and they're like, she's making this up, but she goes along. And I'm like, no. She's got a stack of paper somewhere where she rifles through, and she's like, what should I tell them today? Blah, blah, blah. And she holds, it's like, you know how they say that the presidents pass along a book from 1 year to the next, or one term to the next, with all the secrets?
Mm.
She has that, but for herself. She has all the secrets. And, like, I have a Post-it note on my laptop right now, because I'm going to write you an article about all the questions I have for her. And it's very long. And it's just from this book. I have questions from the other books, too, but she knows all of them. Like, why didn't Sirius escape from prison earlier? Like, why did he wait that many years? Why couldn't he wait 5 years? Why couldn't he wait? Like, why, like, 13? Why? Because she likes the number 13. That's why. It's garbage.